wisdom was seen as antiquated in ancient times also. The Romans, for example, the Greeks prior to the Romans, and the Romans, you have the famous passage in Seneca, but he was not unique. The Romans ridiculed the whole idea of the Sabbath as a waste of a seventh of one's life, which, by the way, opens one up to the interesting realization of just how big a part of a Jew's life the Sabbath is. If somebody's 70 years old, it means they've lived 10 years of Sabbath. And they ridiculed it on those very rational grounds. On the same rational grounds, you had Tacitus recording the view that the Jews are the only ones in the ancient world who didn't expose children who were born handicapped. And again, that seemed the modern up-to-date view. Why should society expend efforts to keep alive children who are going to be a drain on the economy, who obviously are imperfect beings? If you have a mechanistic view of humanity, you don't believe human beings were created in God's image. So in the same way, if you run a company that produces toys, and one of the toys is obviously produced defective, you don't try and sell it, you just toss it out. And that was their view about what should be done with human beings. And Jews were held in contempt for holding a different view. So it's hardly a new thing. In the United States in the 19th century, workers at the Homestead Steel Mine in 1892, 1893, were working under conditions where they worked 7 days a week, 363 days a year. They were off on January 1st, on Christmas and on July 4th. The owner of that steel mine, one of the two owners, was Andrew Carnegie, who was a great philanthropist, but who thought that this was an appropriate way to treat people. So the fact that an idea is old doesn't mean that it's antiquated. And it certainly doesn't mean that it's been replaced by better ideas. In Cambodia, under the Khmer Rouge, under the communists, the people who certainly shared a hatred for belief in the Bible, and a hatred for belief in God, and a hatred for the Bible certainly, or a contempt beyond belief, certainly runs through Mara's movie. They tried, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they tried to abolish the 7-day week based on the Bible. I think they tried to do that in the aftermath of the French Revolution, which was also a secular revolution, and have a 10-day week to, again, make it more productive for the society. So people who held on to these old beliefs held on to something important. Jonathan Sacks, the chief rabbi of England, mentions that there were 3 very significant revolutions in the last 200 years that altered the world. 2 of them were violent revolutions, and one of them was not. And the one that had the most blessed effect on the world that was not was the American Revolution. The alternative revolutions, which were both committed by atheist regimes, were the French Revolution, which to this day, far more than it's associated in people's minds really with democracy, which is what the American Revolution is associated with. It's associated with people having their heads chopped off. And of course the Russian Revolution, which, if truth be told, led to actually more murders than were committed by Hitler. Stalin did commit more murders, also with a hatred of religion and a hatred of the Bible and a hatred of God. The American Revolution, though Marr tries to gloss over this fact, was done at the behest of people who did have a belief in God. They had quarrels with aspects of religion. Interestingly, with aspects of religion that Judaism has quarrels with. What bothered Adams was the disproportionate emphasis on faith and the disproportionate de-emphasis on deeds. And Judaism, of course, emphasizes deeds as the means to salvation. But there was much less violence associated with the American Revolution because God put limits on it. Marr in the movie is only trying to show how religion leads to the most awful sorts of excesses, but we hardly only need to look to religion and to see excessive evils. People will commit excessive evils in the name of many things.